people out there, there are children out there who are denied their basic fundamental right to education. And this is where social workers like our next speaker, who have dedicated their entire life to this very cause, come into picture. Our next speaker, fondly known as Rajni Tai, is a professional social worker who has devoted a major portion of her life to educating lesser privileged children. The Compassionate Crusader is a veteran professor whose research led her to find that one's life is framed by the type of basic education one receives. This being her driving force for founding the Society of Doorstep School in 1987 to help the underprivileged. Her unique venture consists of innovative approaches like community libraries, networking, and nurturing schemes, and schools on wheels, which have helped keep kids in schools without having to literally do so. Today, the organization has over 950 members and has reached out to over 60,000 learners. Rajni Paranjpe has a master's in social work and has held posts at both the College of Social Work, Mumbai, and the Shikoku Christian University, Japan, with a teaching experience of more than 20 years. Ma'am, the virtual stage is yours.
Today I am here to share with you my experiences while working with children who are deprived of education for many different reasons. You might wonder what reasons could be there that a child could not get even primary education, and then there are problems. Because from your point of view, everything is free, government schools are free, they get free uniforms, free books, even free midday meals. And in such a condition, why there should be any parents who do not send their children regularly and help them get educated when everything is free and there is no real problem as such. And the families in which you are raised, from the day probably you remember, you know education is very important in life, and without education you cannot really progress. But in that case, you must really be wondering all the time why it is happening, and you must have drawn some conclusions also. And now, in my experience, generally the conclusions are such that these parents are not interested rather in their children's education. They are more interested in sending them to work and uh, increasing their earning and use their earnings for their daily livings. I want to show you today that what are the problems and why this happens, that even after having everything free and getting so many, even midday meal free, so many children do not go to school. Let us see what are the three major problems that our education system faces. And they are like first thing is not getting enrolled in school. Over a period of time, like when we say 20 years back or 25 years back, lot many children were there who never used to get enrolled. And today, if you see, the rate of enrollment has increased. You will find nearly 98%, at least the statistic shows that nearly 98% children are enrolled in school, but still 2% remain, and we are such a big population. So in numbers, if you count, the 2% also matters a lot. But that is one group. There is another group who gets enrolled, but for practical purposes, it is of no use that they are enrolled in school because they attend very irregularly and hardly ever go to school properly and leave school in between at second standard, third standard, or some such point. Then there is the third group about which we hear very often, which is regarding the quality of education. We read in newspapers also, every year the ASER reports say that so many children are not even able to read, even if they are in school for 5 years, 4 years, they are not even able to read a second grade book. Now, what can we do about all these things? I don't know whether you have even thought about these things or you have thought about them and have come to the conclusion. It is all the parents' problem, and we really cannot help the children. Now let us see why we need education. I mean, there are many answers to this question, but for all practical purposes, if you see, there is one answer definitely there, and that is the education has to equip you in such a way that as you grow up as an adult, you should be able to earn better living, decent living, and live your life in better way, and that is the reason. Means you may say many other things and they are there, but earning capacity is a must. Now let us see what happens when we are educating our children. You are in school and the first stop or finishing stop comes after 10 years, 10th standard or 12th standard. Now if you have studied up to 12th standard or 10th standard, how you are better equipped to earn a living, and how can parents think that they have to send their children to school so that their future will be better? Because at the 12th grade level also, you are good for nothing for all practical purposes. You can, at the most, you can be a delivery boy, work in malls, or work as a courier person, or some such thing. Your parents were working, suppose, as manual laborers and earning a certain living, and this, what you are earning today, is not any better. So actually 12 years are not sufficient. You people are here today and see how much your parents need to invest in terms of time and money in your education, and for how many years. Nearly, I can see so many children, or no more children, adults rather, of 20, 25, 28 year old who are still studying and their parents are supporting them. The kind of parents about whom we are talking today are not and will never be able to support their children for so many years because their incomes, their living conditions, and their existence is so very difficult. Every day the life is so difficult. Now, who are they? Now, let us see the pictures here. We can see them, construction laborers are there, wheat bhatti, brick kiln workers are there, stone quarry workers are there, the rack pickers are there, those who are begging at streets are there, so many of them, and all of them have children, and all those children must study. Because why they must study, that is first question. Why should we worry so about them? Because it is not only for them, but it is for us as a nation, as a country, as anybody, that everybody has to be educated. Because if they are not, as adults, they become dependent on others who are educated, because civic amenities, from where the government provides you all these things. Those who earn, they pay taxes. That is how nearly, there are countries where nearly 50% or more of their income comes from income tax, which the citizens pay. But that can only happen if everybody is educated and everybody is earning well. This cannot happen in the country where so many people are. We have to carry them on our backs. That is one thing. That is one very important thing, which we have to. We are not doing any favor to them by educating them. We are actually doing good for us that they are educated. And it is not only the income thing, but it is so many other things like keeping cleanliness, keeping learning, family planning. Now, Corona, for example, today there are so many people who are resisting to take vaccine because they don't believe that this vaccine is going to help them. They only believe that in fact it is going to harm them. Why? Because there is no education. Their thinking is like that. They believe in old beliefs. So education is important, no doubt about it. And I don't think you have doubts about it. Then why it is not happening? What is the reason? Are the parents really not interested? I don't think so. Means my experience of so many years show me so many examples. Let me give you one or two such examples, which will show you that not only that the parents are interested, but they are also making efforts to send their children to school and educate them. But we are failing them. Now let us see. We have a program which we call School on Wheels. School on Wheels is a bus which we have equipped as a classroom and take to locations where it is not possible to hold classes. We are not a parallel schooling system, but still we give all the support services to children, and study classes is one such support service. Now, in that, we were taking this school on wheels bus to a location, to a road construction location, where all the huts were on pavement there, close by on the roadside, and we used to take our bus there. And there were about 10, 20 children, infants including, about 8 or 10 children were school going age. We used to take our bus there every day and teach those children. They were not attending school yet, but we were preparing them for attending school. Now, one fine morning when we went there, the huts were there, but no person was there, no children, no adults. Now, this happened for 3, 4 days. We wondered what happened. Nobody told us that they were going away from there. So we decided to go there on Sunday. And on Sunday morning when we went there, now again the huts were full with people. Everybody was around. So we asked them, what happened? Where were you and why you never told us? Then they said that one fine morning our contractor came and took us in the truck to some other location where there was a need for laborers. We didn't know that beforehand. And even if we had known, we couldn't leave our children behind because you look after our children only for a couple of hours a day. Now, when we are here around, that was okay with us. But if we have to go somewhere else, we cannot leave our children behind. So we said, how can you do that? Don't you have any importance about children's education, your children's education, and all those things we said. Then they asked us the question, are you going to look after our children the whole day? We will keep them with you. If you take that responsibility, we do not mind. We will keep the older children with you. We will take the infants with us, and we will also give lunch and other things for our children to last for a day. But you have to look after them. Now, this is the challenge and this is the real problem. Parents cannot leave the children behind. They cannot just say, my child will go to school. There is nobody in the house. A child is 6-year-old, 7-year-old, 8-year-old. They cannot leave them behind. And we are not ready to give the services which are required. We have never seen the conditions in which they live. There are no civic amenities. Now we have never even seen their daily routine. Now the sugarcane workers or even the workers who are working on brick kilns get up every day at 3 o'clock in the morning and their work starts at that time and the whole family is involved in that. Now we cannot help or they cannot rather help and they have to take their children's help for their daily living things. And we have not given them anything which is suitable for their living conditions. We have not given them good living conditions also, no light, no water, no electricity, nothing. And mother is also working, father is working. In the evenings when mother comes back, either she is looking after the younger, she is nursing a baby or she is pregnant, she has to cook, she has to wash, she has to do everything. And father is hardly of any help. In fact, he is a nuisance in the evenings because he comes home, drinks, and that's all. This is the situation. Now, in that situation, we know that central government employees have central schools all over India for their children because they get transferred from one location to another, one state to another state, and so on and so forth. Now, where are the schools for these kind of workers who have to seasonally change their location, go from one location to another, go here and there, have no place to live, no knowledge how to go to school and get child enrolled, and so many things. So these are the difficulties. All I cannot tell you everything just in these 10-15 minutes. What I am trying to tell you is to think about these things. What you are looking at behind you, in front of you, is not the real thing. Means you are looking that they are sending their child for work. Now in Corona, when there were no servants available, I am quite sure if many of you had to help your parents in their daily chores. Now these children have no such help, so they have to help. And what we are thinking that child labor is the cause of not taking education, my experience is that child labor is the reason for not having good proper education system. Because see, the child has to get entrance at the age of 6. The primary education is for 5 or 4 years. By the age of 10 or 11, a child should be at least educated 4 to 5 grades. but that doesn't happen. And when you say he gets employed, nobody employs a child who is 6-year-old or 7-year-old. At least 10 or 11-year-old child, then only it starts working. But if the child is not learning anything even after going to school, then of course naturally it starts working. They accompany their parents and enter child labor market, and then it is really, really very difficult to take them out. Education actually, if you try to do, is a very good field for anybody to work in because it snowballs. If you only educate one child, that child will see to it that his family, when he grows up, his children will go to school. And this happens. We have seen this. Even with beggars' children, we have seen this. There were children with us, say 20 years back, and who have become adults now. When we ask them what has happened, they have not studied much. They have not studied much, but nothing they have studied actually. But when we ask them, what are you doing? They told us, one or two when we meet. They tell us, no, we are begging only. We have not changed. But what has changed is, they said, we have kept our children behind in the villages and our children are attending school and we are very, very determined that we will educate our children because they have seen what is education. Because many times people ask me that you are educating these, what happens? They live in between, there is no impact, they have not become 10 standard grade and all those. So in first generation, no family can see the end results. If they are doing, they are very brilliant, very different children, but an average child even if he leaves it in the fourth standard, fifth standard, and forgets everything, reading and writing, because afterwards there is no practice, the impressions of that school and the aspirations which that school has given in that schooling years and afterwards gives the dreams that I will send my children to school. And that is what we need to do today. And you, as everybody cannot be very every day teaching somebody or every day going to the slums and helping these children, but still you are in a position to think of these people. It should not educate. We think it is equality, and we have to give education to all. But equality doesn't mean equal doesn't mean the same. What you are getting, or the kind of education you are getting, or the kind of educational institutions in which you are studying, need not necessarily be the same for them. We have to give them what is appropriate for their situation, because the situations you cannot change it immediately, but the conditions under which you are teaching them can definitely be changed. You must be knowing the story of fox and crane in Aesop's tales. Like food can be the same, but the container has to be the different. If it is not different or appropriate for the person or the being that going to consume the it, then it is of no use. What education we are giving to all free, this free, that free is not really what is required. In fact, in your computer science, they say Control Z, that means undo everything, whatever you have done. Unfortunately, in life there is no Control Z. But somebody, because if somebody asks me what I wish it should be Control Z, then I wish it is by giving so many free, this, we are killing their self-respect, we are killing their feeling of pride in themselves. What we need to do is not necessarily give things free, which are not necessary to be given free to everybody, give them quality education. And how to give it, that has to be dependent on the conditions in which they are living. Here I remember a story, actually, two stories. One thing is, first story is about a Japanese girl, which I have seen the serial on our TV only, which her name was Oshin, and Oshin was a child labor. And she was working with a family and looking after the child. And as a Japanese system, she used to carry that child on her back. And in that village, there was a school. So she will go with that child and stand outside, look from the outside through the window. And one day, the teacher noticed her, and then he called her inside, and he went with her to her employee. and the employee refused to send her to school. So the teacher said two things to the employee. Remember, Oshin is a Japanese citizen, and we have to be proud of all our citizens, and they all must be educated. I don't mind if she looks after your child. Let that child also accompany with Oshin, but she has to come to school. So we have to be as proud as that about our nation, about we should not all the time say they are different and we are different. They are us and we have to look after them. We have to look after their needs. And it is, you will say, what can we do? You can do many things. Here the other story is from Ramayana. You must have heard it many times of the squirrel who helped in building of that Setu from Kanyakumari to Sri Lanka by just carrying those sand particles from on her back by getting herself wet in the sea water, going back again on the shore, rolling herself in it, and again going back. And so this is what you can do. You can even help today. You don't have to start earning. You can save from your pocket money, even 100 rupees per month, and help somebody is sufficient. You can teach somebody is sufficient. You can give your thought to all this and think why it is a problem, that is also sufficient. But today, we are not thinking of others. We are not thinking of our less fortunate brothers. We are only thinking of ourselves, which have to change.
Thank you, Rajni ma'am, for that very thought provoking speech. It has definitely helped put a lot of things in perspective for me, especially the difference between equal and equality and how the needs of different diverse human experiences have to be catered to.
They say you must practice what you preach, and Rajni ma'am has time and again proven that right by being the driving force for the snowball effect. Ma'am, you're an inspiration.
I would once again like to remind the audience to send us your questions in the Q&A section on the bottom of your screen so we can pose these to Rajni ma'am.
I'd like to invite our speaker Rajni ma'am onto the virtual dais for the question and answer session.
Thank you for being here, ma'am.
Thank you.
The first question for the day is, you said that the majority of parents are complying towards getting their children educated. And what are the children's attitudes towards it? Do they show interest or are they reluctant?
If they definitely show interest. You have to admit them in school at right time. If it is late, like suppose if the child is 10-year-old, 8-year-old, then by that time it becomes very difficult for that child also to get adjusted to school routine and other things. But otherwise, children are not only interested, they are really very keen on going to school and studying. We have seen children who uh, are really very stubborn and they make their parents send them to school. So they are happy. They are really happy because all children like to be in company of so many other children, going, learn new things, find new things. So children are not a problem at all. Not at all a problem.
Okay, ma'am. The next question is, what communities of children does your organization focus on?
No, anybody. There are no particular communities as such. We, any marginalized child or a community where children are not in school or not able to go to school, we focus on them and we try to help them in different ways. We are not a parallel schooling system, as I have told you beforehand, but there are so many things a school going child requires help in. First thing, like from home, going to school, school transport is one major requirement, or getting ready to those teaching their parents. Their role is also very important. Taking their studies, because if their parents are not even able to teach them ABCD many times. And also looking after their other needs, such as looking after their siblings and those kind of things, giving them the opportunity or the possibility or of books to read, running libraries and all that for them. Because what happens, the children do not see any books or printed material at home, or anybody is reading as such. And reading is a skill and requires practice. Whereas our children, the educated homes give books to their children when they are very young, not even able to read. And that is how gradually children start learning or loving to read and other things. Whereas these things do not happen here. So for practice also, we have to give them, make them available books and other things. So run libraries for them. So there are so many things which are required as help, and all those such kind of different services we provide, including working with parents and teaching them about their role, like how to go to school, how to attend parents meetings, what to know about child studies, how to find out the school timetable and the exam and other schedules, and not go to villages back and things like that. And if you have to go, what other alternative arrangements can be made. And parents are also, once you teach them, are really interested. We have seen parents who, suppose we start giving them school transport. So couple of years after having done this, parents gradually start uh, spending for their children's education. Now in this corona time, we have also seen parents, because online teaching and other things are there, who buy smartphones and all that, even if they really don't afford to do those things. So there are parents who, but these kind of extra inputs in all these families are needed to be given, because there is no culture of education in their family, and that becomes a problem. Plus, they don't have dispensable time or money or energy, which you have to give the support.
Thank you, ma'am. I wholeheartedly think that helping to educate parents can create a very strong support system for the child to be educated. And thank you for your effort, ma'am.
Right. Yeah.
So you are the proud founder of the Society of for Doorstep School. My question is, ma'am, what event in your life triggered this idea in you, and did you face any criticism from your family or society regarding this decision?
Actually, there is no one incident as such which triggered this. It is because I am in that profession. Like, I'm a professional social worker. I was teaching in social work colleges. I have already seen the situations. And our college where I used to teach, I used to work with corporation school children, slum children. And from the experiences which I had, I also was working in the research department and was heading it also in the college. So many small research studies or evaluation studies which we do, we always see, when we see the background of the respondents, little education also makes a difference. And unless the whole community is educated, that is what I was convinced. I don't know how, but over it is a process. There was no one particular this thing. Secondly, there was no, uh, as I have told you while I was talking, the field is such that there is no question of any uh, opposition or any other problems from family or even from society or even the slums where we go. We have never seen any opposition from anybody for learning or teaching people. Sometimes it so happens like grown-up girls and all that, there is a problem. But we have, as we call ourselves doorstep school, we take education to their doorstep. So we run classes for girls and all that for grown up near their house, in their gullies and all that. So that kind of opposition also we have not faced. And in fact, we have got all the support. All our workers, mainly they are women, and working in slum and other areas for all these years, 30 years, not even one incident they have seen or met with which really could scare us. Everybody actually respects them as teacher, and I think it is a very safe field to work. There is no opposition from it. And family, of course, there was no opposition, because I was already married for 15 years when I started even studying social work. And when I started this, I was more than 50-year old. So there was no question of any family opposition.
Um, there's another question from the audience, ma'am.
Hmm.
Do we need specialized curriculum when educating the marginalized community, given that their problems, needs, and lifestyle is very different from a child who has been going to school from the age of 3 or 4?
Not different curriculum as such, because the subjects might be the same and may be required. Otherwise, their future opportunity of having the same kind of education will not be there. But different kind of education system, different kinds of schools, and maybe more number of years. Like initially, they might require little more, but that doesn't mean don't take exams, don't do this. All those things have to be there, because otherwise quality of education suffers. And curriculum, I don't think has to be separate for them. It has to be means vocational training and all those things. That has to be for everybody. We should not, from the beginning itself, uh, give them different kind of education, and then they are away from the opportunities which are otherwise there. So I don't think that, but I think certain kind of little more time in the beginning and little more support in the beginning, so that they come up to the level of others by the time they are in, say, fourth, fifth standard. That is required. That is for sure. Maybe initially certain few, a couple of subjects like environment and other things which are added in our curriculum. Maybe initially we will not. We should focus mainly on math, science, and reading, writing skills, and strengthen those skills first, and then go ahead with others. That is what I
Oh,
feel.
ma'am, that brings into mind something that you had mentioned in your speech about equality and being equal. And I would like to ask a follow-up question, that how can schools might want to provide education to to the underprivileged sections? How can they involve with such projects or such ventures? And how can they make, if they are, suppose a school is offering um, to teach such children, what are the things that they need to keep in mind?
No, I have not really understood the question. You mean the schools the kind of schools you attended?
Yes,
How
ma'am. So
can
if
they help the schools in which the children are going? Correct? Is that correct?
uh,
My interpretation or no?
ma'am, as in the schools in which the children are going to be studying in.
No, these children are going to uh, government schools, and other children who are going to private schools and all that, they are totally English medium and other things are there, and they have never seen they can help them in different ways. Actually, there are schools who get involved in kind of teaching the children and other things, or and these days even online teaching is there. But even meeting them once a week, doing certain kind of activities together, helping them in, mainly what I feel is the basic change has to come in our attitude towards looking at them, and that is what all children has to learn. They have to start looking at this group of people as if they are their own people, and they need to do something. Till such time, no matter how much you help, real change will not.
Yes, ma'am. That brings me to my next question. What is your view about the newly coming educational policies in India? Like the national
The
education
policy is
policy.
very good, huh? And but it is now it is coming as new. But these kind of suggestions and recommendations have been coming from Kothari Commission's time long back. Like vocational training is required, this is required, and people have started. But unfortunately, in India, policies are always very good, but implementation is very poor. So, though I like the policy, I am not very sure how it will be implemented, what clarity will be there, what uh, kind of facilities will be given to children, and who will do what, and how can vocational training be. Because it was started in school some years back. Means when my brother was young, he was learning carpentry and other things in his school, but after some time it all stopped. And again, the same thing they have introduced. That is good, in fact, because today, after 12 years of learning anything, you cannot stitch a button also, or cannot even work on computer properly. You cannot do anything better. And because you are not doing even helping your parents at home, cannot do even household work, cannot do chapatis or anything. But not everybody can do without it. They have to look after all their houses, they have to do all these things, and they have to learn skills in schools itself. But I don't know whether it will happen. I'm not very sure, because so far the experience is there are good policies, but implementation is lacking, poorly lacking.
Agreed, ma'am. Implementation on ground needs to be strengthened and not just policies in the making of it. So, ma'am, the final question that we have for you is, uh, as undergraduate college students, which most of our audience is, what is the best way to involve ourselves in this initiative and such initiatives?
Each one has to decide for himself or herself, because each one's conditions are different. So there is no one solution as such. But as I told you, first thing you have to start thinking, start knowing about these things. Start thinking of these people, not start like, okay, they are different, we are different kind of attitude. That first thing you have to change as undergraduate or whatever kind of student you are. And as I said, even from your pocket money, little money you can save and give. When once we were doing some fund collection and all that, and I was telling somebody that it is only you give 500 rupees, means a working person, 500 rupees per month, it is nothing much, it is one pizza. So he told me very frankly, but pizza also matters. So I think that kind of attitude has to be changed. First, whatever I can give, I should give my time, money, my thinking, my thoughts, and my feelings for them should be there. And that kind of, because then that will carry, that will give you the way of it. Everybody cannot really spend full time in doing all these things, but everybody can think of these things and start bringing change in the situations.
Wholeheartedly, ma'am. Agreed. Um, I think Kriti is on mute. Um,
I said, thank you so much, ma'am. We will definitely do our share of what we can.
Yeah.
We had a really great time talking to you, ma'am. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank
I
you so much
really
for.
hope that you will do that, and that is really great. The kind of thought you have expressed here. Thank you.
Thank you so much,
Thank
ma'am.
you so much.
Bye. Thank
Bye,
you.
ma'am.